Hello guys, and welcome back to the final part of my faith journey story. So this video is going to be about basically from meeting my husband to getting married to finding a new church to like figuring out life together and honestly just kind of like what's happened over the past like year for me. So I'm really excited to share, and I really hope it blesses you, and I hope that somehow it encourages you and speaks directly to your heart. And let's get going. So yeah, last time I talked about my dating mishaps, I talked about my adventures with God, I talked about shifting from my job as a pharmacy tech to becoming a personal trainer and following that calling. And yeah, so then I talked about doing a 90-day dating fast, and at the end of that dating fast, meeting my husband. So I didn't really meet him then, okay? So we went to high school together. We both graduated the same year. I graduated a year early because I hated school and wanted to get out. So took some summer school classes and graduated a year early. We met at our 10-year high school reunion, like officially met, because we never really crossed paths in high school. I knew who he was because he was like homecoming king and, you know, like popular, and I was just a pretty little wallflower. That's my petals. So yeah, so we met at our 10-year high school reunion. But like at that point, he was living in St. Louis. I was here in Dallas. He was dating somebody, and you know, like we just kind of like met there. I think we may have danced together, like with a group, and that was kind of it. Like, you know, I think he reached out to me after us seeing each other at the high school reunion and was like, did we know each other in high school? Because I don't remember you. And I let him know, you wouldn't remember me because we didn't have any classes together. I graduated a year early. But anyways, we basically started connecting on Facebook because he would see like my posts, and a lot of my posts were about faith. And so we kind of connected over that, like in the DMs, like we were discussing that book, Crazy Love by Francis Chan, like I mentioned before. I digress. You know, our communication kind of dies off because obviously he's in another state and he's also dating somebody. So anyways, like fast forward maybe a year, he moves back to Dallas, you know, dumps the girlfriend, and basically reaches out to me like before Labor Day, before I go off to this like adult Christian summer camp for a weekend, which was super fun. Also put on through the porch at Watermark. I forget what they called it actually. I don't remember. Anyways, it was really fun though. But anyways, so we met for coffee like the morning before I was supposed to leave town. And you know, it went great. Like apparently he reached out to his best friend and was like, I'm gonna marry this girl, and you know, it went well. So then like I was actually like surprised because for some reason I thought that he was like not a nice guy, and still met with him for coffee. And he was really nice. So I was like, oh wow, like he was way more pleasant than I was anticipating. Sorry, honey, I love you. But he knows this. So anyway, so yeah, then basically that's kind of like where we start dating. Like we, I guess, met in around September, and we just kind of like start like going on like some dates, but like with friends, like we're dating like with a company of friends, which is kind of cool because honestly, that's kind of like what Watermark was teaching, was to like not date in isolation, to date with like friends around, so your friends can kind of like observe their character. Even though I was like more around his friends than mine, it was still good to like see who he hung out with, you know, and just kind of meet everybody. So that was the beginning. And then he like wrote me this like long letter and like asked me to like be his girlfriend like in October 2016. He wrote me like this long letter and like basically asked me to be his girlfriend, and we became official. And then we were like, it was kind of cool. Like I really enjoyed the way we dated. Like it wasn't perfect at all. But you know, like we did some Bible studies together. We would like always meet for coffee, and it was just it just felt like he was actually trying to get to know me, not just trying to like get in my pants, you know? And I'm sure like obviously if you're a woman, you probably understand that sentiment. So yeah, it was a good time. And anyways, fast forward to like 4 months later, on his 30th birthday, he proposed and like asked me to marry him. And I guess I'll divulge the story, but I don't know if I should do it now. Let me know in the comments if you want to hear the story, and I'll share it. But for time's sake, I'm not going to share how he proposed. But he proposed 4 months later after we started dating. And then basically 8 months later, the day before our 1 year dating anniversary, we got married. And yeah, so that was that. But the thing I guess I really wanted to talk about was that when we, you know, like got married, this is kind of where things were like shaky. And not like between us, but they were shaky because I was, you know, following his leadership, and I left Watermark to go to the church that was close to our house. But anyways, so I left Watermark, which was like my church home. Like I went there for like 3 or 4 years. Like I went there for a long time. Like I was deeply invested at this church, loved this church. Didn't love everything about it, but I mean, it really helped me grow like spiritually. So I was very attached. So anyways, I started going to this new church with my husband, and you know, like it was a new church, and they were bringing in like every week, like people were getting baptized, people were like coming to, you know, be saved. But they didn't have anything really to help them grow spiritually, like nothing that I saw at least. What I did was I like presented to the pastor. I was like, hey, you know, there's this course called Equip Disciple that I learned, you know, from Watermark, and I showed him the material, but I never heard back. So I was a little disappointed because I wanted to like help the new believers at that church grow, but I wasn't given the opportunity. So I was kind of bummed because I felt like I wanted to serve, but there wasn't really anywhere for me to serve. And I felt like also every Sunday was like a motivational speech, and it wasn't really like based on like what the Bible teaches. So I was like just feeling like I wasn't growing spiritually anymore. And you know, I you know, expressed my frustrations to my husband, and he was like, okay, like, you know, I mean, it wasn't like this that he decided that, but you know, he was, you know, disturbed that I felt that way and that I felt like I wasn't growing. And it's part of his role to lead his wife and help her grow spiritually. And so like he recognized that I wasn't growing spiritually and that it was time for us to find a new church. So we like seek out finding a church. We like go to all these churches, and there was just like bad experiences. Like some of them, like one we really, really liked, and you know, we put our name in the basket, like our information card in there like 3 times, and no one ever reached out to us. And it was just like such a bummer because, you know, we really wanted to be involved, but like no one ever reached out to us. And it was just like very discouraging. But it was kind of like, okay, well, this must be God like closing this door, and this isn't for us. And so what we ended up doing was birthing Breakfast and Bible. So shout out to anybody who used to come. We did that for almost a year. And basically what we did was we would cook breakfast, and we would invite like our friends and, you know, family and people that normally wouldn't go to church. And we basically just opened the Bible at our house and like would teach from the Bible, and like, you know, just, it was just pretty organic. But it was something that we all look forward to, because we just got to talk about life, what's going on with us. We, you know, got to get into the Word and be encouraged, and yeah, so we did that, but it kind of fizzled out. And then we were kind of looking for a church again, but we really weren't finding like a church home, you know? So that was it was kind of like a weird place to be. Throughout this time, like I'm still studying the word, I'm still getting into the word every day. I even am doing like these weekends away where I'm like getting quiet with God, which is something I learned in Equip Disciple, was to like take like half a day of prayer. So sometimes what I would do is I would just like go rent like a condo like alone. And I did this like once this past year, like last year at the end of 2019. I was basically seeking God for clarity on like what's next for my life. And what kept occurring was like life coaching to like shift into life coaching and basically becoming a spiritual teacher. And so after that happened, like my faith, like I started having a lot of doubts. And like now, like in hindsight, I can see that it was just like, it was meant to be this way. But I felt like really distant from God. Like I started to get into like some of the new age stuff. Like I was distancing from God. And I was starting to feel like a little lost. And so February this year, 2020, I went to this conference. The navigators, the people who created Equip Disciple, put on this conference. And so I decided to go, and I ended up meeting this woman who just like, oh my gosh, like I did not realize I needed to hear this, but like she just spoke so much life into me and was just like, she was like, God still sees you, God still hears you, God's still there. And like, I'm just like bawling. And then she like shared this scripture with me, which was Jeremiah 29:11. I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. But then she goes on to, like most people skip the next verses. So she says to go from verse 13 to verse 11 and read it backwards, and it makes more sense. And so what it says is, you will seek me and find me when you seek me with all of your heart. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. And so this woman just spoke life into me, and I didn't know I needed that. And she was so kind. Like she pursued me like the whole weekend. Like each weekend she was like trying to meet me for lunch, trying to meet me for dinner at the conference. Like it was a 2 or 3 day conference. I think it was 2 days, but it felt like a long time, like, so she was just, and she turned out to be like a Christian author, and she was just really, really kind. And I was really blessed by her. And apparently she was going to start working with the navigators, and that's why she was there. But anyways, so besides that next day at that conference, I also meet like a couple who went to Shoreline. Shout out to Shoreline. And they were saying that, basically that Shoreline was going to start teaching Equip Disciple. And that was really something I wanted to do. I wanted to go to a church that taught Equip Disciple so I could teach that. So I could, use my gifts and teach others, and teach this course that I'm really passionate about, and help others grow, like spiritually, grow closer to God. Like this course was life-changing for me. So I was really passionate about sharing it. And so hearing that this church is in Oak Cliff, they have it near my house, and that they're gonna start teaching this, I was like, okay, it felt like that was like where God was placing me. He was like, go to Shoreline. So that next Sunday, like I went to Shoreline, and I decided to start pursuing membership. And then of course the pandemic hits in March. So I did go to the membership classes, but I never really got to start serving. And I don't think that they're doing Equip Disciple yet. But hopefully, they will be one of these days soon. I feel like all this year has like been equipping me to start stepping into like life coaching, starting to step into more spirituality. And so, I wanted to put out these videos to share my faith journey and to start sharing more about faith. And so, I hope you've enjoyed this, and I have plenty more to share, and I'll be coming back on to share more. Please let me know if you have any questions. I feel like I kind of just like abruptly ended this, but that was like the major things that have happened this year and the things that I wanted to share. So have a great day, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.